Hello everyone, this is Warpster77 tuning into another video, and today I will be reading to you guys Chapter 9, Next Go Round. July 18th, 2020. Creo woke the boys up once he got a text message from Spectra telling them to come down to the warehouse. Getting to his feet, he combed his frazzled red hair and noticed his eyes were still dragging bags under them. He sighed. Another night of nightmares, huh? He shrugged as he noticed his bed was distraught and there was no blankets on it. He must have kicked them off, trying to run away, feeling trapped. He had not been in this world for a year and a half, for a period of time. And when he first returned, it took some getting used to. Not only that, but also living in this world after a year, he has noticed some changes. Saxton was no longer the president, and many new laws have been passed. New television shows and actors came into the mix. New politics and jokes had come around, and he felt out of the ring. An outcast, regardless if he was a wanted boy, man. He turned 18 on May 30th, and wondered what his mother was feeling. He wondered what had become of his dad and two brothers. No matter to him now, because they would not want to know their son was a murderous, blackmailing, framing, stealing criminal. Looking into the mirror, he noticed how much he had changed on the outside, with his lean muscles and enhanced body. But now his mind had altered. He no longer flinched at the idea of ripping a person's fingers off, or electrocuting someone until they talked. He didn't mind the screams, the pleas, all the fake deals and lies. Walking out of his room, he went to go wake the others. Hey, time to get going. Spectra needs us, Creo said as he walked past Nolan, who slept on the couch. Side, who was on the air mattress next to Kick in his chair. Arch came up from downstairs with Boo. The two shared a room and Boo was comfortable with him staying with her. Nolan sleepily replied, 5 more minutes. Creo sighed and got the water and splashed him. This time he wasn't moving. He went back into the kitchen and dangled a donut in front of his face with a stick. The reason he used a stick was because as soon as it was within smell radius, Nolan jutted a blade into the pastry and then crammed it into his mouth before immediately waking up. Good morning, Vietnam! He shouted, causing Kick inside to groan. Shut up, Nolan! Side moaned as he chuckled, as he chucked a pillow into his face. Viper and Shadow were in the guest room, where Neville was staying for a time period. The boys made their way to the kitchen and brought out a box of cereal. It was gone along with half a gallon of milk in a matter of 10 minutes. Then they were out the door. Climbing into the trucks, the boys cruised down to the warehouse and was greeted with Spectra holding an envelope. Morning, ghosts, he told them as they pulled in and unloaded from the trucks. Why were you calling us? Viper asked. Because I found it fitting that you're the ghosts of your generation. Not believed to be alive, and are definitely not dead. Creo raised an eyebrow and said, Warpster calls us ghosts. I wonder if it's for the same reason you do. Viper felt uneasy being around Spectra, but let out a sigh and said, We're ready to get going. Spectra clapped his hands once, and then turned on heel. Excellent! Now into the pods, as you four have a busy day, he told them as they walked into the warehouse. As for you three, I have some presents for you. The home-based trio looked to one another and then to Creo, who asked, What kind of presents? The kind of presents you get to see once Viper leads the base of operations down into Phantom Peaks, Spectre retorted as he ushered them into the pods after they stripped down. Once inside, they were placed right back to where they had left off in the hotel. Meanwhile, outside the competition, Spectre turned to Nolan, Creo, and Arch. Follow me, he said, walking past the pods and into another large section of the warehouse with stacks of boxes piled on collapsible metal tables. He escorted them to a wall with circular targets on them and dummy outlines. One of the 3 tables had weapons that they had never seen before. You are quite cunning and resourceful for using what you have managed to scavenge up or smuggle into the state, but now here are some grade A weapon premiums, Spectre told them as he showed them the arsenal. There were 3 identical pistols, 2 knives and hooked handles, and curved serrated blades. At the end was a little black squared stick, no bigger than a piece of gum. Here is your arsenal for your first mission. I have a high-priority target in Virginia who is getting too close to my sting operations on the East Coast. I need you to take them out and do it swiftly. He showed them a briefcase that was lead-lined and had a photography picture of a normal passenger item. This is how we get it across airport security? Arch asked as he looked it over. Precisely, Spectre said, and Nolan went wide-eyed. Dude, we're better than hitmen. We're British spies up in this bitch, he exclaimed as he looked at the knives. Dibs, he said, holding them both in his greedy little hands. Have 'em. I want the gum stick, Arch said as he held it up. That is actually the Swiss Army knife of utilities. Flash drive, EMP, shiv, taser, and many, many more perks, Spectre said as he strode around the tables. So, how are we getting these there? Or how are we getting there? And what are we going to do? Just gun-ho in the middle of the East Coast? Creo asked, and Spectre laughed. No. Here is my next present for you, Creo. He handed him a tablet about the size of a small book. This is your greatest weapon. Live messaging, all kinds of quirks, and enough functions, memory, software, and text edit equipment to compete with even most with most land computers. Use it to keep all important docking information and even more security-ware. He handed Creo some contacts. That is the key, and can only be the way to read what's on the screen, with the ghost function. Neat, Creo said as he popped them in, and cold now to see the screen was on the whole time, displaying their mission, location, and almost everything he would need to know about their targets, and he knew them. Keep Aragon and Halgon, he said as he scrolled through the bio. Those were the Forever Mark players that Warpster and Viper talked about a lot, he said as he looked them over. Nolan laughed and said, We're taking on the cheaters from so long ago? Perfect. He cracked his knuckles and thrusted his knives in the air and felt as mere extensions to his arms. When do we head out? Arch asked. Creo looked and saw they had a flight for 5 p.m. today. We go right now, Creo said as he turned to them and told them to pack everything. They packed the lethal items in the lead suitcase and then headed out the door. They took the Fruit Loop and headed to the back safe house to pack clothes and other etc. Driving to the airport, they got through security just like anybody else except Nolan, who had swallowed a couple pennies for some reason and was detained for an x-ray. After Nolan was released, he said, I think I'm going to get cancer. This is Oregon, not California, Arch replied, and Creo shook his head. Boarding the flight, Creo kept the tablet with him and began to read over the mission description. These targets have been sent to Baby Card, an undocumented agent of Harkinson's, and it is assumed to be a very important person. No physical picture could be displayed, only known information listed: female, white skin, brown hair, and age 18. Potentially it could be another contestant. Be advised, target could be armed with another target. And other targets are confirmed threats. He read along as they ascended into the air. Creo was deathly afraid of planes, so he tried his best to distract himself with reading, but it wasn't working. Listening to music, eating, watching movies, and reading more, but all did nothing to ease his horrendous feeling inside. This is gonna be a long flight. He noticed Nolan was sitting with an elderly woman, and she was reading a rather perturbing book. Stiff as a board and terrified at the woman as she read more from the erotic book, and then glancing back up at Nolan. He kept completely silent and still, then slowly and jitterily looked to Creo. Help me. I need an adult, Nolan whispered to Creo. Back in Oregon, Viper led the four-man team into the world of Phantom Peaks. They all woke up in an inn they logged off in and headed out into the winter to see it was sunny and warm, this time with winds howling. "Where to?" Kick asked, and Viper pointed towards Katie's place. "We'll check and see if she's there, then get the plane and head onto the mountain to investigate what we're up against," Viper said as they began to tread through the snow at their feet. Once they arrived at Katie's warehouse, Viper knocked and noticed a PDA left on the door, and it read, "Keys are under the rug." Looking at their feet, Viper pulled up the doormat and found a pair of keys. Unlocking the door, the four of them entered to see what they could use to their advantage. Taking the keys to the plane and other necessities such as ammunition, navigation equipment, and medical supplies such as bandages, biotic filler, and cauterizer's tools. "I'll fly," Shadow said as he got into the cockpit of the plane and started up the engines. "Do you know how to fly that thing?" Side called up to him from below. Looking out the window, Shadow gave him a nod and thumbs up. "I know how to fly in real life as well. Everyone climb aboard," he said as the engines roared to life. Side shrugged and hefted the machine gun on his back and sat waiting with Kick and Viper in the back cargo bay. Shadow opened up the warehouse hangar door and runway was clear. Unfolding the wings, he had a private HUD on his monitor that gave instructions on anything he needed. Punching the throttle and setting his course clear, Shadow fired at the plane and sent it flying high into the sky. Over the city, they flew towards the mountain that they had went up with the world bright and clear. There were no clouds to be seen for miles as they flew towards the mountain. Even at that height, Shadow could not see the summit of the massive peak, with the misty fog still covering the tip. Shadow didn't really know how to land according, since there wasn't a runway strip on the mountain, but he found something in the valley that would be useful. There was a station on the mountain where many other planes were docked, and he figured it was a landing or refueling station. As he eased down onto the smooth patch of snow, Shadow facepalmed as he realized the plane had a hover function. Once landed, though, Shadow disembarked the rest of the crew and locked the plane. Heading over towards the structure, Viper noticed many people were just sitting inside, talking, chatting, selling, trading, and other necessities. Kick saw a man with a red flannel, heavy helmet with a shot-up visor and blue snow gear. "Mind if I sit down?" Kick asked, and the man turned and gawked at the sword on Kick's back. "Well, now, where'd you find that?" The man said and had a thick southern drawl accent, and Kick noticed the name under his snow clothing on his chest plate. "Deadeye, huh? Is that your name?" Kick asked. The man turned and nodded. "Aye, it is. What can I call you?" "Call me Kick," he said with a smile underneath his helmet. "Is that a nickname?" The man chuckled as his drink came in a glass bottle. "More or less. So what is there to do up on the mountain since you seem well acquainted with this place?" Kick asked him, and the man shrugged. "Hunt, fight, die, get rich. Whatever, it doesn't matter much." He took off his helmet, and a thick gray beard came into view with his silver black hair on his head. Drinking the liquid, Deadeye gave the AI some money from his BT. "Something on your mind?" Kick asked, and Deadeye replied, "Nah, but hey, if you want to go have some fun, I'd love to hear about how you got that sword of yours. Maybe we can go hunt something if you ain't busy." "Sounds like fun," Kick said as he looked back to Shadow and Viper, who stayed along the walls looking around cautiously. "Friends of yours?" Deadeye asked, looking to them, and noticed Side was walking around looking at the taxidermies on the wall. Kick nodded. "Yeah, they're old friends of mine. You could call us a team." Deadeye smiled and said, "I once had a team, but well, never mind. How about we go shoot some bottles out back and go for a hunt? You can come bring your friends along if you'd like." Kick was thrilled and motioned for Viper and Shadow over to him. After introducing themselves to Deadeye, Kick filled them in on the proposal. Viper and Shadow saw no harm, and soon Side agreed with them. Heading out to the back, they came to a stable wooden bridge over a river. Once they crossed, they came to a wall with holographic dummies no bigger than a can, and they were thin. We call these bottles since they're basically serving the same purpose. Go on, show me some of your sharpshooting, he said as he hefted the S1 Trinity shotgun on his back. Kick nodded and pulled out his stubby SMG and aimed down the sights. Firing 2 to 3 bullets from the slow-firing gun, he dropped the first bottle. Viper snickered and brought up his side-loaded SMG and fired once and broke his target. Nice shooting. I'm assuming you know how to use that Trojan just fine, Deadeye said to Side, who grinned at the remark. Shadow lined up from the side of the bottles and shot one rifle round to break all 3 lined up. Deadeye let out a long and low whistle. Well, damn, that kid's got good aim. Shadow blew the smoke from the barrel of his rifle and smirked. How about we go hunting? The valley is just down the hill, and it's chock full of cast-dried deer, which are perfect for new hunters, he said as he motioned for them to follow him in the snow. The 5 of them trailed through the low-level snow and came to a clearing with some small vegetation growing in the tree-absent field. Deadeye pointed to 2 blips on the meadow. Viper nodded and began to crouch real low while Shadow scoped in to make sure to get the other as it advanced. Deadeye whispered to Viper, Stay low and in the shadows. They can smell someone coming, so don't get too close. Deadeye then handed him a bottle that said pine scent. Nodding, he sprayed the liquid on him, then continued to advance on the creatures. Viper began his approach and remained silent until he reached a safe distance away where he felt confident in his shot. Taking aim, he pulled the trigger and sent 7 bullets hurtling towards the deer and dropped it like a sack of potatoes. Shadow, at the exact time after hearing the first shot ring out, fired his rifle at the back of the other cast-dried deer and dropped them instantly from a well-placed bullet at the heart. Deadeye let out a long and low whistle and began to head up to the carcasses with Viper already at the scene. Side was trailing in the back and had a very unnerving feeling about it all and brought out his machine gun. As he approached the bodies, Shadow went to get his and Viper along with the others went for his own. Deadeye taught them how to count the prongs on the horns, and clicking the skin icon will give you the hide and the horns will just turn into the prongs. The next step was to find a trader and cash them in to get paid. And since the deer were common, they weren't supposed to expect much, and the economy does change, and often it is best to hold on to the more valuable ones until the biggest bang for your buck shows up. Side wasn't paying much attention, and soon Kick joined him by scanning the nearby trees, and kept a watchful eye out for any more creatures on the prowl. Then he saw it, a large tan-colored animal lunging for Shadow. Side opened fire and peppered the snow, staining it red from the amount of blood the creature lost from the 30 5.56mm rounds that peppered its bloody husk of a body. Deadeye had whirled around and went to inspect what happened. At Shadow's feet was a 6-foot-long cat that looked like Swiss cheese from the amount of bullets pumped into its side. He looked to them and said, Well, that right there is an Irish tiger. Lovely creatures, but super deadly. I highly advise not messing with them too much. He told them, and Shadow stared at the creature and saw the claws extended at him. Nodding, he stood up and replied, Yeah, so how much are they worth? He asked, and Deadeye chuckled. Not too much, but it's 100 credits for every inch of the tail. So if you got a 2-foot tail, you're looking at 2,400 credits. Their jaws dropped at the cat, and Viper went to click the icon and receive the tail and hide. Impressive, Viper said as the tail was actually 23 inches. Deadeye snickered and said, Hey, you guys seem to know what you're doing, and I'd like to speak with you a lot about something I need help with. The 4 of them followed Deadeye back to the lot and sat in the corner of the bar, and he began to tell them of his plight. My team went on an expedition not far from here, and I was their pilot. waiting for their call, and it's been well over the expected time. And personally, I'm not much of a good shot, but I know they can still be out there, and I want to go help recover their things of them, if they're still in one piece. Kick looked to him, and then to Viper, since Viper was the one in charge. What do we get in return? Viper asked him after a moment of thinking. If you talk with my superior, then I'm certain he'll let you take whatever you want. I know I'll pay a price too. Name it, and I'll give it to you. I just want to go get my team back. Kick looked to Viper again, and his helmet covered his expression. Sure, we'll take you up on that offer, he said after a moment of thinking. Anyways, guys, this is Warpster77 signing out. I hope you all enjoyed, and let me know what you think of the story so far. Alright, this is Warpster77 signing out. Hasta!